Hey everyone, this is Nick from Tenacity.ai with my co-host Jason. You're listening to the Cloud Cost Optimization Podcast. Today, we're going to dive into the topic of keeping your cloud costs in check. What are the sorts of lessons that we've learned from successful FinOps strategies? And to the listeners, the subscribers out there, I would love your feedback on your lessons learned so that we can include them in our content as well. And we can certainly do an update to this episode as we gather in those lessons that you all have learned. So I'm going to start off this topic with dropping the first one that I think is a big issue, especially coming from being in leadership for a long time, building a lot of infrastructures in my career. I've seen this problem over and over, and certainly with variable spending and the speed at which you can deploy in cloud, accountability is like the number one issue. It's the root of all issues in cloud spending, in my humble opinion. And some of you all may disagree with me, so allow Jason and I to defend this point of view. So I'm going to say first that the accountability issue is not necessarily because people don't care or because they don't feel responsible or because they lack accountability. It's that there is no clear, singular role, person, et cetera, who is primarily responsible for cloud spending. And so as you're thinking, I want you to think about this. Engineers have conflicting priorities, right, Jason? Their priority is to build, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Over,
yes.
Right. So
the business's goal is to get revenue in the door, not like manage cloud costs, right? Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Right. Not to reduce their cost of goods sold, right? That's a good example. Like the business is focused on go get revenue, not on reduce, what it takes for me to maintain this customer.
To your point, your engineer's first priority is to deliver things that help revenue, not cut costs typically. And even if the organization says we need to cut costs, which includes people, by the way, typically, right? It includes cutting people costs. Well, what happens then? Well, you lose engineers, so you lose the time it takes to manage those costs. And then those engineers that you have left are tasked with making sure that they're maintaining what whatever application or like whatever workloads you're doing to maintain your revenue or maintain your a satisfied customer base, whatever those things are. Their priorities completely shift, and so cost cutting equals typically less people, less time to do all of these tasks that already aren't important to the business necessarily, right? So yeah.
And I mean, we come from a deep background in technology. We both run businesses. We've come from a deep background here in running tech organizations and operations. And we understand, as I'm sure every listener understands, the work versus labor inversion in technology, where it is just fundamental to engineering that you're going to have to say no to probably more than half the work. It's just a reality inside of tech. And so a lot of what we're doing as technologists is trying to suss out what are the priorities in what we need to go build that align with the business. I mean, this is the entire goal of most of our, development rhythms that we're getting together, on some regular basis to decide of the deep backlog of things that we need that people want. What are the most important things to go address right now? Think about that. That is not the case on a factory floor. That is not the case in the trades, right? That we're having to go do that. It's not the case inside of your bank.
Yeah, right.
So this is a interesting issue that engineers have to deal with, is that they're always prioritizing build over anything else. And there's the classic, well, they should be allocating some time to do improvements to pay off technical debt. We've all been in those conversations. Right. And as soon as you do that, it's like, why wasn't this delivered?
When a business says that, you know what they mean? You should do it after work hours. It's exactly what they mean.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Why are you sleeping?
You should be allocating your time, some of your time to this. No. The business should be ensuring that I have enough time to do this. It's just, we have to decide.
And
the business has to decide, because relying on just a few good people, which is what a lot of organizations do, right? They just rely on a few good people. And those few good, and
true.
Sometimes those people get let go during times of crisis, right? And then you've let go of your few good people because they were your few good people. So if you don't have a process, if you don't have a if you haven't identified the team, and then maybe this plays into one of the next ones, and then hold them accountable to understanding this and making sure that they own all of this, then you're gonna be in a world of hurt.
Yeah, this is, there are a number of strategies to address this as a leader. One of them that I'm not going to say is a good strategy, but I have employed it many times in my career, is to take, right? That's true. But it works. It does work. Is we tell the business that the vast majority of people are just going to be out during the holidays. So we're not going to plan to get very much work done. So we take our scope of work that can be done way down for like 2 weeks. And then we go back to the development team and we say, listen, whatever problem's been bugging you, just during this next 2 weeks, go solve those. Like, go fix the ones you want to go fix. And we always come out of that. One, people do take time away. They get, they take off. But you get this incredible productivity and improvement because they're taking some of those problems that have been bugging them for a long time, and they get to just go fix them, address them. They know where they are. These are the smartest people in your organization. They know exactly where the issues are.
They may not know where all of them are, but they definitely know where a number of them are, right? I mean, like every engineer has a list. Right. Like, man, I need to fix this, whenever I get a chance.
Right. Right. And so we have this accountability issue. So we've laid out the issue. We haven't laid out any of the lessons learned yet. But here, let me just extend this issue one more place, because we talked about the business. Now let's talk about also finance and procurement, right? So finance is not focused on what amounts to 3% of the budget, right? They're focused on much bigger issues than a variable spending model. In fact, they just want you to kind of go fix it for them. Like, they don't want it to be 4% this month and 2% of the budget next month. Like, go fix that. And they want you to manage it in budget, like they want every other department to manage it in budget. So sometimes I hear this trap of a lot of times, very experienced engineers going, this is a finance problem. And I always have to push back on that of, actually, it's not a finance problem. Finance is at the table. But what amounts to, it's just a very small piece of what they have to worry about. They're far more worried about their debt covenants. They're far more worried about the financial strategy. What is, are there upcoming M&A opportunities or upcoming equity events? Where do they need to make investments? Where's their risk? Where's their, opportunity cost? Where should they be investing in different lines of business, et cetera? Those are way more important strategic issues than this budget that probably amounts to somewhere in the ballpark of 3% of their budget. Yes, in organizations, it can be much bigger. I totally get that you might be in one of those organizations where it's 10 or 15% of your budget. It won't be there for long, but it absolutely could be that. I get that. Okay, so that's the problem. So what are the lessons learned? I think that, the first lesson learned is you have to address this accountability issue, right? You have to take the data about your cloud environments and map it to the business and adopt a data-driven approach. As soon as you turn opinions and feelings into data that everybody can look at and now debate, you are starting to address accountability. So I think that's number one. Lesson learned. Turn into data, get away from feelings.
Yeah, so...
What's number two?
Get away from feelings. I love that one. you know how I feel about that one.
Hey, listen, we should all have feelings, but I want the feeling to be happy.
Right. We know what you're talking about when we say about feelings. It's typically ego is what you're referring to when you say feelings. That's what I...
Absolutely. Or stress.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Anxiety.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
All of those.
Well, let's see here. So... sorry, now that we got on that tangent, what did you say number one was? We got to come back. Just tell me what you've said for number one, because now my brain is gone.
Well, number one is we have to address that accountability issue with competing priorities, which is really mapping out the cloud spending data to the business, turning everything into a data-driven approach. That's number one. That's the accountability issue. We got to address it there.
Yeah.
Well, what's the second lesson learned? Yeah, what happens then?
Also, because with accountability and ownership, and then making sure that each team is responsible for all that, but you got to arm them with the data that you just said. I think continuous learning, continuous improvement, right, is another one. What do we see often in these lessons learned? I go, okay, we got to do this huge cost optimization and allocation project to get everything mapped out, get it all done, boom, right? It's all there. And then what happens in 6 months after that? Oh, it's back to the way that it was 6 months ago. This. How many times have we heard this story, right? This is the piece that is often forgotten. And you know what? It's the piece that's often forgotten in IT in general. We used to talk about this all the time. Nick and I have known each other for a pretty long time. It's that, hey, the first bit of documentation is always the easiest. It's when I make that update, do I go update my documentation? Do I have a process that ensures that I'm going to make sure that this stuff continually stays optimized, continually stays allocated, all the new stuff, everything. And that's often missed in cloud spend management / optimization / whatever people are using for the buzzwords tomorrow sort of stuff, right?
Successful FinOps strategies implement a rhythm.
Successful companies implement a rhythm. Successful people implement a rhythm.
Well, yes, we could do a whole different podcast on that, not just an episode. We
need to start pulling these tangents out and
rhythms
doing another show on these tangents, because we keep on saying, man, we could do a whole podcast on that. We just do we could do a separate, not a separate podcast. We could just do a fun, one episode where it's Nick and Jason just bullshit for 25 minutes. And then, maybe, you know what I bet though, Nick? It would get our most views on YouTube.
The shorts
right,
will.
Third.
So number 3 is visibility equals understanding, right? As soon as you have that data, as soon as you have a rhythm, now you are actually putting something tangible in front of the organization. And I'm going to say in front of the key players here. And suddenly there's understanding. And what's important about this is that let's take a business where you have multiple. If you only have one line of business, actually getting to understanding you can do on the back of a napkin usually. If you have many lines of business, understanding your cloud unit economics for those lines of business can be next to impossible without some effort. And once you've put the effort in place, you want to maintain that effort, which is what we're talking about here. And then you want to make sure that is in front of the eyes of the key players all the time, because now they have understanding as to what's actually going on inside an environment. Because you would hate for them to to sell $1 of revenue and spend $1.20 on supporting that revenue, right? We want to make sure that the economics make sense. And we don't want the economics to change dramatically, right? That's going to be really important as we're monitoring what's going on inside of environments. Did something change in a development cycle? Was there a requirement that came down that caused us our unit economics to go from, cloud is or infrastructure maybe is about 20% of the support of this infrastructure, and it suddenly went to 33%. That would be a massive change that I, as the business, would want to know, because 13% of my profit margin just was eliminated.
And businesses do not know this data.
Those are the sorts of...
They don't.
Yeah.
They have no idea.
That's correct. They don't. Nor does the finance team, right? Because they're struggling to make sense of what's actually going on. They don't understand the components of spending in cloud. They understand the overall cloud bill. They understand discount strategies. They understand, growth rate and some variance and so on. But they don't understand the individual units as to what applies where. So that's important. I think that's number 3.
I agree.
Number 4.
Oh, how about flexibility or adaptability, whatever you want to say. These all kind of play together, but cloud environments are unpredictable, right? And so and I think you probably have a good example for this one, but
Yeah, I would state this as it's the same problem that happens inside of every organization, every process. Dates don't work.
Especially in cloud.
When you take an approach. Exactly. Like that's the power of cloud is its speed, its adaptability. So when you have a cloud cost challenge and you address it by putting a gate in place. So I've got an example. I just spoke with a team that was dealing with cost management issues that from their point of view, they were dealing with these priorities of like the business is driving them to get something done and deploy it. The engineering team is driving them to get something done and spend more money to overcome maybe some other engineering issues or software issues. And then the architecture team comes at them and says, you guys are awful. You're spending way too much money. So now every deployment is going to go through us. We're going to approve every bit of code you want to deploy. And that took them from being able to respond to the business and respond to the engineering team immediately to it taking, never hours, sometimes days, often weeks for code to get approved. They just completely slowed their organization down. So gates don't work, right? You've got to maintain this flexibility. They do not have an internal FinOps practice. They don't even have an internal CCOE. So they haven't even started the fledgling governance components that can put frameworks in place to allow that team to do whatever it needs to respond to the business and respond to the engineers and then have it reviewed, right? And so, it'd be great if that architecture team could actually see that data in front of them and have a conversation that includes all of those parties, not come down on the one party that's trying to help the organization. And I think that's what we're talking about here is that you have to maintain that flexibility. And FinOps helps you do that by making data-driven decisions and forcing it in front of the group.
Yeah, I mean, those gates in front of processes never work. And it's always somewhat bizarre to me that when we hear, it's not an uncommon story to hear, right? It's just, it is so detrimental to the business itself, right? Because here's what it's not just that you put the gate there. You put the gate there, and guess what? People just stop going above and beyond and doing extra stuff because they know it's got to get reviewed anyway. Somebody else is going to do this work, and so you don't just lose the flexibility and the time. You lose, actual innovation. You lose it because they can't try anymore. They can't try stuff like. How many times have we just been given somebody a task and said, just go figure out how to do this the best way, right? And, just allowed them free reign to do that, an engineer. It kills innovation. It kills culture. However, maybe it is the culture that you want, that you have all these bureaucratic processes in the way of people actually doing their job. But it kills so many things. It's the worst thing to do. And especially, there are some situations which you have to, right? That there's no way around it. But this isn't spend. Cost of goods sold shouldn't be one of them. It should not. Oh, actually, and revenue.
Yeah, it's really. Yeah, it is trying to slam in a legacy procurement approach to a problem of agility and ability to move fast, and that's the demand of the business. So you need to adapt those processes. Okay, so the final one is lessons learned is collaboration actually creates accountability. So to tie this all together, all of what we just talked about was really about accountability. And it's bringing those folks together, putting the data in front of them, helping them understand that really takes this emotion, intention, and anxiety out and forces those data-driven decisions, forces you to debate data as opposed to debating opinions and guesses. And we take the finger pointing out of it. And this is, Jason and I, we talk about this quite a bit. We have a core value that is great ideas win. You have to check your ego at the door. You pull everybody in a room. You take something that's a real problem. You have data about the problem. You discuss and understand the problem, and then you start throwing ideas on the table. And this is what you need to do with a successful FinOps strategy is you want the right players in the room to start throwing ideas on the table, to debate them. Nobody calls anybody stupid, right? Because nobody has the best ideas. The greatest ideas actually come from collaboration. They come from, if 4 people enter a room, 4 ideas go on the table, they get debated, they get torn apart, they get a 5th idea that emerges, and a 6th and a 7th. And those ideas get iteratively better until you walk out of the room agreeing that, okay, here's a path we can go take. That's what you have to get to. So that would be my ultimate lesson learned, was you want to get to that point where you're actually collaborating and debating these ideas around your cloud spending. There's a journey there, but that's the lesson. That's where you want to get.
Love it. I think we're at time, man. Right. We got to end this. That was a great way to end it. I mean, I think collaboration is the most important because it ties all those things together. I completely agree. I don't need to add anything to that.
Awesome. All right. Well, hey, head out to Tenacity.ai, download the Cloud Cost Optimization Handbook, give us some feedback. We're always updating it. Head out to /r/Cloud Cost Optimization on Reddit to leave your comment, feedback, questions. We would be happy to answer them here on the show or individually, however you want to start that discussion. And we always want people to try out the platform. The platform, it's absolutely a cloud cost optimization platform, but we also deliver advisory and full service, help you implement your FinOps organization, depending, whatever stage you are at in that journey. So reach out to us. We're happy to have that conversation. Everybody.